So, good evening and welcome to another edition of the Magpie Circle. I suspect it might be a bit of a lively one tonight. I'd just like to make it clear at the start of the show that Stell and I will be, whatever happens to us, losing voice or whatever, we will be here for the full 60. There are no pre-planned substitutions, which probably has as much to do with the fact Chloe's not about this evening, so we haven't got anyone on the subs bench anyway. So we are here. We are here for good or bad, probably for bad. We're here for the duration. And of course, FA Cup exit at Peterborough. How much do you attribute that to the quadruple, don't see many of those, substitution? Clearly, as the manager has subsequently explained, with one eye on the game against Walsall, his words were he had to. Your thoughts, your views on exiting the FA Cup, and the importance of Walsall. We'll be opening the debate up a little bit about sports science. Do we wrap up the modern day professional footballer too much in cotton wool? Is it too much to expect young players, and I've looked at average ages and those sorts of things of the players that were brought off, all in their early to mid-20s. Is it now too much to expect them to be able to play 2 games in 4 days, 90 minutes? Is that beyond them? And if that is the case, should we be scrapping midweek games? For the record, Notts have a senior professional squad of 25 players. I looked it up. We currently have a total of 5. Yes, 5 of those players out injured. And yes, clearly, Jones and Crowley are 2 massive, massive missers. But Curtis Edwards has started 3 games. Scott Robertson has started 5 games this year. And Connor Grant. Do you think we're making too many excuses? Or do you think the club cannot be expected to get better results than it currently is under the circumstances? All this and more on your Magpie Circle podcast tonight. You may see as well official partner JH Accountants. James Holliday, the boss of that company, has recently done a silver partnership with Notts County, and as he approached us to partner with us as well, as he wants to get up close and personal with our supporter base. So we're delighted to have JH Accountants on board as our first official partner as well. And please do not forget Martin Allen, the return of Mad Dog. Mad Dog barks in the big shed at the Trent Navigation Friday night. Doors open 6:30. From 7 o'clock, Mad Dog will be holding court. And I think that is probably not an inappropriate phrase. Thank you to the many of you who've already got your tickets. You can still get those tickets in advance. £11. I think you all know the outlet from where you can get them. Okay, right, that's a bit of a long-winded intro. The subs, exit at Peterborough, sparked a lot of debate. And what I want tonight to be is a balanced, rational discussion about that substitution, those substitutions, and the manner of our exit. Clearly, this is not a debate about the manager and all the rest of it, right? He will live and die by the results. And we are currently in the playoffs, as we have been for much of the season. So this is not about people's individual futures or anything like that. But we will be exploring the whole issue of, if you like, 2/3 of a way into an FA Cup tie that could net the club £500,000 if you get a good draw. And you're actively making substitutions with one eye on a game in 3 days' time. Clearly, that's going to divide opinion. Dimitri from Montenegro, I'm just going to read Dimitri's point out, because I think this is quite well put. You don't have to agree with it, but I think it's quite well put. I'm going to watch later, says Dimitri from Podgorica in Montenegro. Just want to say that subs and the statement from the manager after the match have unnecessarily increased the pressure on Tuesday. If we don't think like predators, we'll become the prey. And that's exactly what happened on Saturday. We need to be braver, and whatever happens will happen. Greetings from sunny Podgorica. Stell, I was at the game. So obviously, I've not heard your thoughts. You've subsequently heard what the manager had to say in his interview with BBC Radio Nottingham after the game. Give us your thoughts.
Right. Yeah. I must admit, I was surprised at a quadruple substitution. It's one of the things you don't get very often in football, full stop. And I know there's been my little rant about the fourth official board making it take forever has got a bit of traction somewhere. But in terms of, look, I thought we were under the cosh. I thought it was, I know we were leading at the time. I thought the way the game was going, it was literally a matter of time before they scored, equalised, and who knows what might have happened from there and in. So was I surprised that he made a substitution at that time? No, I wasn't surprised at all. We couldn't get out of our half, truth be told. I thought we were poor second half. I thought we were absolutely outplayed throughout the second half for the majority of it. So was I surprised he made a substitution? No. I thought making a substitution was probably the right thing to do at the right time because you had to try and change the flow of the game. It looked inevitable that they were going to score. Four changes. That's the eye raising bit, of course. And like you say, the players that went off a little bit eye raising. Lewis McCarry, young lad, defender. Change him. Okay, Lucas Ness as straight swap. They were more or less straight swaps that he made, just looking for fresh legs that came on. I was a little bit surprised afterwards that he said it was with a view to Tuesday night. I mean, you look at the substitutions that were made. I think you're looking more at obviously Macari, Cerula, and Jatta because Kedwin Scott was down injured anyway, wasn't he? And he's not had a lot of 90 minutes in his leg, so he was feeling the pace. Hopefully, that was only cramp that he was down with, or just feeling it and just allowing Notts to make the changes. So hopefully he's okay. But the other three were obviously, as he said, as Stuart said, with a view to Tuesday night. Well, there was a game to win there and then on Saturday. So I wouldn't have worried about Tuesday night myself, unless, and I know information, unless any of them lads that came off were feeling knocks. Now that wasn't answered. That question wasn't sort of asked, but it was with a view to Tuesday night, he said. But whether that, they were feeling knocks, I don't know. But I'd like to see Jatta stay on. I'll be honest, I'd like to see Cerula stay on, but then you bring Sam Austin on fresh legs, he's going to give you energy. So yeah, I would have made the substitution. I think that the timing of the substitution was not bad at all. I think trying to change the game, we were under the cosh. I say it's the four players that you can't say it disrupts us because we weren't in any sort of flow. It was just surprising. It's something you don't see very often. And obviously, when you make changes and then we concede goals as we did, he could have made no changes. We could have still conceded the same goals with the way the game was going. I wouldn't have been surprised at all. And substitutes aside, I think if it wasn't for Alex Bass on Saturday, I think Peterborough scores 7 or 8. I really do. I think there was some wasteful finishing, and Alex Bass was fantastic. They were too hot to handle for us for large parts of the game, certainly in the second half. So I understood making the change. I like say a little bit. I'm very much of the thing that play the 90-minute. I think, and we'll come on to this. I know we will about. You can't worry about the next game. Worry about the current game, and the next game. Then once that game's finished, then you worry about the next game. But yeah, disappointed with the result. Disappointed to be out of the FA Cup, of course. Do I think the 4 substitutions was the reason for it? No, I don't really. I think it was going to happen. I think we were firmly second best in that second half. And I think the George Abbott goal, which proved to be a consolation, sort of flattered us on the scoreline on the balance of the game. 4 subs, yeah, maybe I wouldn't have done the same thing, but we can all be clever after the event.
Yeah, look, you're the pro, I'm the fan. From where I was watching it, first 11, 12 minutes of the game, Peterborough destroying us. Disallowed goal, miss a sitter, could have been 3 down quite easily in 10 minutes. And I didn't think they were any more dominant in that second 45 than they were in those opening 10 or 11 minutes. We go down the field twice, cross, corner, 2 goals. And that to me, when you, which I did, spoke to Peterborough fans before the game, they said, oh, we're good going forward. So we're terrible at the back. He says, we'll eat goals all the time. And so that kind of like opening 15-minute cameo, in which, to be honest, Peterborough absolutely battered us for about 12 of them. And we go 2-1 up after 15, 17 minutes, whatever it was. And I thought, yeah, Peterborough had, because I was behind the goal, so you sometimes get a different perspective. I thought Peterborough had a lot of the ball in the second half, but we're winning 2-1 with 22, 23 minutes to go. You get another 10, if not panic, they get stretched. I thought we were always likely to get another goal. And I take your point about Peterborough dominating the game. I think it's quite, in a way, defeatist to kind of say, well, I expected them to score, thought they were going to score. We're winning, and characters, resilience. We've hung on in a lot of games this season. Normally we're hanging on at end of games. And a lot of the times we've seen it through. And I just thought the moment that you significantly reduce that outball, admittedly, we were struggling. Everyone around me just going, well, that's it. We're done. Park the bus. And in the space of 20 minutes, no less, 16, 17 minutes, we've conceded 3 goals. And I just, certainly among the fan base behind the goal, it was kind of like, what's he done that for? And there was like a collective, and I just thought we missed a trick, be ruthless, be winners, and we'll know, I'm sure people will tell us in any second now, cup draw, and you and I aren't listening to it. But that's a lot of money to the club. And we talk all season about doing this, doing that, the nest, going to support the club, going to do this. And I spoke to 1 or 2 people in football today, and they incentivize, manager and those sorts of things, given how important a cup run is, and there are big bonuses, and chairman and owners who I've spoken to put a 3-line whip on the manager. It's a 3-line whip, to use parliamentary terms, full team out for cups, not just the FA Cup, League Cup as well, because it's a massive potential, not just revenue generator, but profit generator. And it may be managers and coaches don't really want to think like that, but I think they're the harsh economic realities. And as good as I thought Peterborough were going forward, I don't buy into this narrative that they're a top League One side. Look at the table. They're technically in the bottom half. They're 13th. They've won 6 out of 17 games. So they're not a top first division side. They are a mid-table first division side. And I still thought with predominance of those players, we would have got something. Now, maybe I'm wrong, but it just kind of felt hugely deflating. And speaking to a lot of real fans, not Twitter numpties, I know a lot of them were really upset by that kind of game management policy, or whatever you want to call it. And that, I think, is why quite a lot of fans left early. I don't know how it looked from where you were, Stel, and I've spoken again to more fans today. I tried to take real views. And there are proper fans who left 10 minutes early and saying, why should I bother going? And I know this is emotion. Why should I bother going to Walsall? Didn't really go for it today, sort of thing. Sorry about the rant.
No, I had a rant about the electronic boards, didn't I? That was on the website. So, but that's it. But this is it. Football is emotional, and this is something. And I'm not saying maybe Stuart will learn from this, but maybe it's something that, like I say, I would back him on the timing of the substitutions. I would absolutely 100% back him on the timing of the substitutions. We were winning 2-1. But it felt to me, and we were sat up the other end, on the side of the pitch, but up the other end, the media box was up the other end, almost level with the penalty area at the top end where the Peterborough fans were, away from opposite end to the Notts fans. And it felt like we were watching the whole of the second half play out in our half. Basically, Peterborough on the attack, not having the ball, trying to play out, losing the ball. Peterborough attacking. It felt like wave after wave of Peterborough attack to me, and it was just a matter of time before they were going to score. So I would back him 100% on making the
Yeah.
timing of the substitution, because yeah, if we'd have just carried on, as happened, as it turns out, the substitutions I don't think really changed anything. You know, I think they were going to
See, I
score, and
do. You and I will have to disagree.
yeah,
I think
that's absolutely fine, isn't it? We can
yeah,
disagree. Both
yeah,
adults, we can have different points of view and different opinions. But I thought they were going to score anyway. You know, I thought it was just a matter of time before they equalised. If they got their noses in front, then I didn't see us coming back. I said so on the radio when they got 4-2
yeah,
up. You know,
yeah.
come on, ref. Matty Platt's gone off. We're down to 10 men. Blow up early, put us out of our misery, sort of thing. Before it gets, then George Abbott scores. We're getting an interesting last 2 minutes, um, but I just felt it was coming, so I would back him 100% on making the subs. Would I? Sorry, on the timing to
Mhm.
make changes to try and affect the flow of the game, to try and change something, because it was just wave after wave of Peterborough attack. What I would question, like the fans would question, and obviously are questioning it, is a quadruple substitute and the personnel that we changed. So, but again, but substitutes are always up for debate. You know, what I would
Yeah,
do, what you would do, that's fine that we can all disagree. That is absolutely fine. But I think there is, as much I'll back in for the time and the substitution trying to change things, I will stand, you know, look at listen to the fans. You know, if most fans are saying it showed, or it looked, should I say, it looked, not his intention, I'm sure, but it looked like we were raising the white flag a little bit,
mm,
going, oh, we're under the cosh. Let's take Jatta off because we've maybe realised we're just going to have to defend or whatever. I'd say Kedwin Scott, I think he had to come off because of the cramp
yes,
anyway.
agreed. Yeah.
But then making 4 substitutions, and the problem that he had as well was, if we're being absolutely honest and ruthless as football is and opinions can be, the players that came on off the bench, and I'll exclude Sam Austin for that from this,
Mhm.
they've not done anything for Notts yet. They may go on and you know prove their worth, but Giovanni Brown, Josh Martin, Lucas Ness have only been bit part players, at best, really. So you can understand the fans looking at it and going, "We took Jatta off, we took Gedwin Scott off." Lewis McCarry, he's a young lad. Why does he need to come off? He's played most of the games. You can understand the questions. I can absolutely accept any fans that felt like that was not the raising of the white flag, but it felt a bit defensive, a bit, not say defeatist, but it felt a bit negative. And then allied to the fact he said it was with a view to Tuesday night, I'd have liked him to expand on that. You know,
I totally agree. Totally agree.
expand on why Jatta needed to come off, why Lewis McCarry needed to come off, why Jack Hinchy needed to come off with a view to Tuesday night. And Nick Cerula as well. What specifically are they running close to these red flags that we hear about? Don't know, or is it just a case of they maybe mentioned at half time they were feeling something, but what the reason I would have liked a bit more meat on the bone in terms of, and I know football clubs are want to keep everything in house, want to keep things close to the chest. So we've said this about the injuries; they're very secretive about the injuries. You understand why, because you don't want to give the opponents a heads up. But maybe a little bit more expansive on that to explain to the fans who maybe don't. Why are we worrying about Tuesday? We've got an FA Cup game here to win, and like you say, could be great for the fans. Because he didn't have anybody, without Dan Crowley, Jody Jones, and the injuries, we haven't really got anybody on the bench that excites the fans. Like I say, I'll give Sam Austin a bit of a pass of that because he's played a fair, decent chunk, and you're going to get energy from him. Um, I think it's a difficult one. It really is. But I think when things like that happen and you get beat, you're always going to be questioned. You know that. But I think it would have been nice just to explain and answer sometimes to the fans, in that situation, I think they deserve a bit more of an explanation. Why? But the counter argument to that is he also doesn't want to explain to Walsall about what team selection for Tuesday is going to be. So again, it's a difficult situation, and maybe more will become apparent after Tuesday's game. We don't know. Team selection for tomorrow night's game will tell us a little bit about why the substitutions and the personnel of the substitutions.
Okay, we'll come on to a minute about players wrapped in cotton wool. Can they be expected to play back-to-back games on a Saturday, Tuesday, start both, play 90 in both? Is that still realistic in the modern era or not? Your thoughts on that very shortly, Stel. Let's go to the message boards. Jurgen Halligan, game changed when Jetta went off, as nobody was able to hold the ball up top, which meant constantly defending. Lippy Jane, evening, really enjoyed the Peterborough game. I wanted it to go to extra time and get another goal in the last few minutes. I still do not understand people leaving before the end. Chris Gosling, I'm off to Walsall, and yes to Salford, yes to MK Dons, and yes to Cheltenham. You'll never break my spirit.
Good lad.
Tim Paxton, pressures on Maynard to get something tomorrow night. I want to come on to that kind of debate or pressure or linkage that's now been put on as a result of us making substitutions 2/3 of a way through a game with a view to the next game. After managing minutes. God, that's a phrase we've heard a bit too much of down the years. Shane Walker, evening all. Saw Shane having come up from Solent on Saturday. Royston, nothing but a win Tuesday, or I dread to think of the meltdown. Greetings from David Parkin and from John Gregory. You have to question Stewart's substitutions, says Martin Blaney. Rich Hawksworth, show regular, evening all, not buying into the criticism of the substitutions. Squad on its knees through injury. What other options has he got? Signing up front with pace essential in January. Evening from Karen Knight and from Adi Clark, as it is from from Lee Morgan. Yes, I'm at Walsall. Vital we don't lose tomorrow. James Moore, sounded like a good game at Peterborough, but sorry, Stell, I fell asleep towards the end and missed all the substitute drama. Now, I suspect that's because James has done a night shift or a morning shift rather than your actual commentary. I'm sure James will clarify that shortly.
Yeah, he can be forgiven. Don't worry. I'm sure he's not the first and probably won't be the last.
Evening from Fine Leg. Injuries are really racking up now, says James. I'm not sure about that. I think it's a narrative that keeps getting peddled, and 5 out of 25. The two we really miss, clearly, are Crowley and Jones, who are irreplaceable. The rest, I think we should have enough to be able to cope. I think David McGoldrick is an interesting one, not involved in the 16. I was at the sponsors, player sponsors day on Friday. David was training. Now, I wasn't there for the full training session, so I don't know the intensity of the training that he did, but he was certainly out there at the start of that training session on Friday. Evening all, Dale Piker. He's off doing the English Rail Rover to Walsall, Salford, Cheltenham, but no to MK Dons. I'm guessing the good lady's got you tied to a Boxing Day lunch or something, Dale. Ian Haywood, we need a good run in December with plenty of goals to get that tally up and a few wins, of course, to keep us ticking over in second gear. Few people giving me jip for starting late. Yeah, I'll find myself. But we're up and running now. Rob Simmons. How about Marias back from his loan at Dagenham and Redbridge? To be honest, I had completely forgotten that he is down there. Good goal at the weekend, doing well all season. What else have we got? More complaints about me starting late. There's plenty of them. 2 goalkeepers on the bench. Where is the squad depth, says Ian Haywood. Paul Edgar, nice to see Stell's gone viral on social media with the electronic subs board. Colin Metcalf, gutted to be out of the cup, but what a fantastic job the squad is doing, being where we are with the injuries that we have. Dale Pikett couldn't care less about the FA Cup. We are not going to win it, and the league is our priority. So 20% of our squad is out injured, all first teamers too. Yeah, that means 80% of them are fit, Chris. Show me one team or club that has got no injuries. Chris Gosling goes on to add, Peterborough were battering us, as you said, Stel, before the subs, and were battering us after the subs. The difference being we were winning 2-1 before the subs, and within 21 minutes we were losing 4-2. Ray Newton, a good cup run would put some coffers in the bank ready for the January window. Robbie Cundy is also absent, presumed injured at the moment, says Andy Easom. I really don't know. We've not exactly seen a lot of Robbie, have we? John Parnham, I think that Stuart Maynard had to be careful with so many injuries. The Cup is a temporary competition. The league is top priority, and I understand SM's decision was correct. Any news on Platt, says Ian G? No, we don't have anything further. Platt and Bass staying fit are paramount to our season staying on track. Should have put Abbott deeper, says Andy Walton. We had no real energy in front of the defence. Well, he got up enough for that third goal, to be fair, Andy, didn't he? I mean, he was in the final third when he got hold of that ball. Great finish, by the way. Matthew Hoyland, wouldn't be anything without a conspiracy theory, now would it, Stel? What is really going on with Dan Crowley? BBC Radio Nottingham have asked, I think, once about a week after he pulled up in the warm-up. But since then, nothing. I sense there is more to his absence. Gazzalee, Bass's best cup performance from a Notts player since Steve Cherry versus Manchester City. Bass was brilliant, said Lippy Jane. Duncan Comley, we're fifth in the table with a depleted squad. I think some of our supporters need to be more realistic. James Moore, let's try and look on the positive. If we had made it through with our reduced squad and picked up more injuries, it might have led to the downturn of our season. We're not exactly going up at the minute, to be fair, James. I think we're at best ticking over. AD Clark, what's your view on Didsey? Sounds like he was rested for Tuesday, needed him Saturday, and surely he'd rather have played an FA Cup as being it's nearing the end of his career. Right, there's loads more, but my voice will give out. And I can't be subbed because I said I won't be. Still, I want to explore a little bit. Footballers, sports science, physios, the stat pack, the data thing that goes in the back of the shirt that they all train with.
Yeah, GPS. Yeah.
GPS. Are we wrapping them up too much in cotton wool? I'm not saying this is right, but certainly in years gone by with 100%, I'm sure across every club, the view would be play, get a result, rest up, come on, lads, do your best. Psychologically, you keep getting a result and everything keeps going. Just give me a bit more. Just give me a bit more. Whereas now, maybe I'm being unfair, it appears to me that sports science people are kind of raising red flags. There's a 30% chance that he'll be fatigued and his left hamstring is tight. And if he plays more than 60 minutes, there's a risk that it could go. Now, my counter argument to that, it's not a precise science. He might be tired, but I'm sure you would know this. Most professional footballers all professional footballers would rather play twice a week and not train quite as much. No one particularly wants to just train and rest and all the rest of it. I mean, my question to you, have we gone too far the other way now or not?
Possibly. I mean, I don't know. And I don't have the inside track. And this is something else, again, I'm sure every fan would be interested. You know, it's things you don't know about, isn't it? It's things we on the outside, all of us on the outside, are trying to surmise and second guess, and we are guessing. So how exactly these red flags work, how exactly the sports science works, you know, we did it with data, and we do it with data, don't we? Well, data, that's new. But we don't know about it, and so you need a bit more meat on the bone about it. And it's the same with sports science. Initially and predominantly, Paul, I think what you're saying, and like me, is why all the protection of players? You know, is it over protection of players? Now, for me, I think you've got to be careful. I think yes, there are elements now in the modern game, and again, I say this with no science knowledge, you know, in the background, no sports science knowledge of doing the degrees that all these scientists have done and will know and have data and all stats about injuries. But from a purely ex-footballer's viewpoint, players want to play. And can you play Saturday, Tuesday, Saturday and play 90 minutes flat out 3 times a week? Absolutely, you can. And if you can't, I want to know why. And this is not me going, you know, the game hasn't moved on. The game has moved on. It's far more, the lads are far more physically fit. The game is faster, more technical, better than in my era. You know, so it's not me playing, oh, it's still the same game. I'll get on with it. You know, I'm not saying that in the slightest. But I think you'd have to look far and wide. I don't think you'd get a current modern player saying that playing 3 games a week, 90 minutes is too much. They would want to do that. They should want to do that. The wrapping them up bit, footballers always been wrapped up. They are your racehorses. You know, they are your prized possession, and you need to have them in as good a condition as possible because that is the best way of winning games. Then it's down to the management of it, and this is where sports science has massively increased since obviously my day. Um, but the fundamentals for me still stay the same. If you've got like, and again, we come back to Notts because that's what we want, that's what we're interested in. If Notts have got the injuries they've got, I'm going to be saying to the players, look, we've got a few injuries, you know, coming back to the injuries, you know, I think it's mainly to key players is the problem with injuries, not the number of injuries, it's the key player element
Yeah.
of it. And we know the two that we're mainly talking about. Just on as an aside as well, David McGoldrick was unfit for selection at the weekend.
Oh, okay.
Apparently felt something in his back on the Friday. Apparently, how bad? Don't know. Hopefully, as a precaution, available for Tuesday. And also, whoever that was who said about 2 goalkeepers, that was because you can have 9 on the bench, and they were literally down to the last 20 players, and
Um,
so they put the young goalkeeper on the
oops.
bench to fill it up. So that's me getting sidetracked with that. But
No,
yeah,
no.
the overprotection of players or the protection of players, I think there comes a point where, and again, this isn't the players will want to. You know, if I'd have been a player, I was a player, but if I'd have been a player in any era, and I'd had somebody in the coaching staff or in the sports science or the analytics department come to me or come to the manager and say to sort of like, I don't think he can play at the weekend. I don't think he can play Tuesday, and I was fit and I thought I could, then if the manager didn't play me or
Mhm.
put me up for selection, me and that scientist are falling out.
Go on. Yeah. Yeah.
So the ultimate decision, you know, should be with the player. You know, the ultimate decision with the manager, obviously, but there would be a serious conversation if somebody was trying to pull me out of games when I wasn't carrying an injury.
Really?
And the
If you weren't
science.
carrying it, but they was kind of saying, "We think you're getting very fatigued. You're getting very tired. You would want to play."
Absolutely, I would want to play. Yeah, but then I would put it down. It comes down to the manager going, drop me then. If something in my performance, I'm still a little bit. Science and everything and data and everything has moved on, so the game has moved on, and I don't want to be that old dinosaur expert. Oh,
No.
in my day, I don't want to be that at all, and I'm not that because the game has moved on for the better. But I think there's some fundamentals in it that are absolutely the same, and I think the players will want to play. I don't think you find a player,
Mm.
and again, there's always exceptions. I'm going to say David McGoldrick at 37. You need to be managed differently. But we're talking about maybe a Lewis McCary or 21, 22. Lads in their mid-20s. They will all be wanting to play 90 minutes, 90 odd minutes, whatever it is, every minute of every game. They will want to be. And I don't think that's changed from 100 years ago to now, and I don't think it will change. But with the intervention, the addition of all the science and all the stats, the fitness stuff they can do, they may be able to say, look, you haven't done as many full out sprints, or your sprints are dropping off, or your stats are telling us whatever your dynamics are and all that sort of thing, dynamic running, so telling us it's dropping off. That's fine, but that's where somebody's got to sort the wheat from the chaff. Is that just somebody having a couple of bad games, or is that yes, somebody is falling off a cliff fitness wise? Find it amazing if somebody's fell off a cliff fitness wise in November, December, unless, like a Kedwin Scott, you've missed a load of games and what have you, and you're getting back to fitness. So I think the players would want to play. So that then becomes a coaching team decision, doesn't it? As to what value you put in the information you're being fed. But I think that it's a dangerous thing in modern football that there's so much chopping and changing of squads and protecting players, and I'm not saying wrapping them up in cotton wool so much as you put it out there that I could be fatigued. It gets in your head that there's a bit of a label for it. I might be fatigued. I might be tired. I might be whatever. I might need a rest. No. I think you should, maybe at some point the onus has to go back on football in general, clubs and players, managers, coaches, that players have to be resilient. If you need them, like Notts do, we've got main key players out. We need somebody to step up to the plate. Somebody to fill Jody and Dan Crowley's position. We need players, and the players will do that. They're not volunteering to miss out games. They want to play. So it's difficult to analyse from the outside in because we don't have the data that they've got. But all I can say with any sort of certainty is, as a ex-player, if anybody told me, if the manager wants to say, look, you're not playing the next game, and you get into it and have a tete-a-tete and have a bit of an argument, and he comes back and says, no, the truth of the matter is you've been crap for the last 3 games, I'm dropping you. Okay, fair enough. You can argue the toss about that, but if that's the reason, if that's the bottom line, then fair enough. But if somebody's being, if I was being left out because we're worried about your stats of what, and I'm saying that because I don't know that's the conversation, but we've got a red flag on you. We think you might be doing whatever, likely to pull something or whatever. I don't know how that works, and it might not be how that works. But if I'm fit for selection, I want to play, and every player still is like that now. But again, ultimately, it's down to the manager and the coaching team to have their conversations and decide how much value you put in all the information that's put on your desk in front of you.
Yeah, very interesting from a player's perspective. And I'm fortunate about to speak to the players. And over the several years now, I've spoke to them and I've asked them this question. There's a view these days that players are rotated and training so hard, and it's difficult to play 2 games a week. Every single player I've spoken to has always said, given a choice, is it 1 game a week and 4 days training, normally get a day off in the week, or 2 games a week and 3 days training, or however it's broken out? Every single player, without fail, I'd rather play 2 games. I'd rather play 2 games and keep playing 2 games. And I did speak to, he's operated at Premier League level, a physio today. No names, no pack drill. And I was asking him a bit about this, about the point you're making about red flags and these sorts of things. And he said to me, the buzzword, the buzz phrase is managing minutes. He said, my job was always to maximize minutes and make that player available for as many minutes as possible for the manager. The reality is, a professional footballer, and I'm sure you would know this, Stal, you're probably not 100% fit for more than 7-8 games a season. You've always got something somewhere, be it a bruise, be it a slight tightness, a niggle, whatever it is. And I think it's when we use these euphemisms about niggles and those sorts of things. Look, the reality is that we know those players are going to be playing on Tuesday, or they are available for selection. And 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 this physio also said to me, he said, a lot depends on individual players' makeup. And I'm sure you would know this. He said, there are certain players who shouldn't be playing professional football, but they will be available for 40 games a season. He said, there's others with a very low, not so much pain threshold, but something in here, got a slight something. And he says, you'll find it hard to get them out. You'll find it hard, even though they're all right. And he said, when you sign players, he said, if a physio is consulted, his stock was, if you're signing a player who over the last year or last 2 years hasn't played more than 20 games a season, don't expect him to play 20 more than 20 for us. He says you can talk about improving him and all the rest of it, and it's not a precise science, but he said if you sign a player that plays 40 games a season, the chances are he'll play 40 or be available for 40 for you. Sign someone that plays 20, the chances are he will play 20. Because, everybody's approach is different, isn't it? It's different. And I do find it quite an interesting conversation. And certainly I, because as I look much older than you, come from a different era, slightly different era. It's not a case of just us going back dinosaurs, this. I'm just, as a fan, outside looking in, you alluded to it, just a little concerned that we're almost making so many excuses that a player might aggravate a hamstring in the 85th minute of the game, so we'll bring you off after 70. When stick it out the 90, and you might hang on at Peterborough, and you might get 500,000. You might get the points. You might whatever it is, and it's kind of that dividing line. And I'm guessing now that modern day head coaches and managers must have 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 people in their ear saying, "I wouldn't play him. I will play." But ultimately, it's down to that one guy to pick the team, isn't it? 20 years ago, you can imagine Jim Smith if a physio says, "I don't think he's good." Hang on a minute, get him in. Right, are you fit, son? Yes, gaffer. You sure? Yes, gaffer. Out you go. And I'm just a tad concerned at the minute, if I'm honest with you. I'm a tad concerned, and I am uncomfortable with substitutions being made in game, irrespective of whether the opposition is battering you. You're winning. If it's 3-0, if we're 3-0 down at half time, make 5 subs at half time. Save them for Tuesday. No problem with that. But I take the point that we're being battered, but we're winning. We were winning that game.
Yeah, I think one thing to say as well, Paul, this isn't just Notts that are doing this. This is not the only.
The whole industry.
This is a lot around football. So there's got to be more, more in it than just it's science that's it. It's going throughout football. So Notts aren't on their own doing this. But I like I say the bit where we'll agree to disagree on certain bits of Saturday. But what I do agree with is, you're winning the game now. And again, not to go back over old ground, but if he makes the substitution, ifs, buts, and maybes don't mean anything. I know that. If he makes the substitutions and we do end up holding on, people say great substitution, great time. It's the result that sometimes changes people's opinion, and they look for it was that substitution that changed it. I think that would have happened regardless. What I think happened is the substitution didn't change it, didn't alter anything at all. So sometimes managers get pilloried for not making changes, not being proactive, or he waited till the 85th minute before he made a change and we were 3-2 down or 4-2 down. So there'll always be discussion and debate about that. But in terms of, I absolutely get the discourse and the fact of a little bit of an eyebrow raiser of, I was doing the substitutions were with Tuesday in mind, and that when you're winning, maybe is not well, certainly isn't the answer that fans want to hear. Of course not when you lose the game. But then if you lose the game, fans aren't going to be happy anyway. We're not going to be happy. We want to win every game. But Again, are players wrapped up too much in cotton wool? I don't know. I honestly don't know. I think there are times when you can question, maybe they are a little bit too much, because don't forget, as the game's moved on, nutrition's never been better. The sports science for the side of recovery for players has never been better. All the science, all the things they've got for them now, the sports gels, the monitoring their food and fluid intakes and everything like that. The GPS gives you how much running they've done, how much yards they've covered out, everything micromanaged down to the last bit. So again, like you, there is still an element where it can come back to basics. Do you want to play? Do you feel you're fit enough to play? And like you say, and even modern day players, well, nobody goes out on the pitch other than maybe half a dozen times a season, not even that, feeling 100%. You're not carrying injuries, but you are carrying knocks and pain and niggles and whatever it might be. So, but again, this is where the world moves on. It's a conversation. It can be a lot broader than just football, but you know, are we? Is the world now overprotecting everybody? There's a discussion to be had about it. Of course, there is. But like I say, ultimately, and this is why managers get criticism or plaudits, that the book has to stop with somebody. And then, I mean, like I say, that's fine. But then it's down. You've got to give the fans the information as to why. If it's with an eye to Tuesday, then that feasts a lot of eyes on Tuesday, and you think, well, that adds a little bit of extra pressure on getting a result on Tuesday, which we all want. And if we get a good result, then all this is by the by, and everyone goes, well, it's great, Stuart. What a decision. What a decision. So hopefully that'll be the case. Let's not forget Walsall got beat 4 at the weekend as well. So they're not going into it with the greatest sort of result in the cup either. But of course, everything will be scrutinised. When you lose, everything's scrutinised to the nth degree. I'd say time will tell, obviously, but massive game tomorrow night, and I'll be interested in the team selection. And obviously, we've not really spoke about Matty Platt. I mean, that was disaster, wasn't it? Him getting an injury, not just after the 5 subs had been made, but just the fact that he's been so influential in the start of the season that he's going to be a big miss. Although we do have, defensive cover, Rod McDonald, Lucas Ness, who you think ready-made replacements for him, and Robbie Cundy as well, but I don't know whether he's fit or not. But yeah, I think we're okay in that department. But Matty Platt has been exceptional at the start of this season, and he will be a miss. So we hope it's nothing too serious.
Okay, we'll come on to Walsall and Colchester in just a moment. Let's get some more thoughts on our flock. Colin Metcalf, I'm a fellow football dinosaur. Football is Saturday, Tuesday, has been for years. That's the job. If you can't play, clear off. Paul Edgar, in Stell's era, footballers will get kicked left, right and centre and still play every match. Has football changed for the better or for the worse? Magpie, the sports science is tosh. Why at Notts do we get so many injuries this season and also last season? Paul says we seem to be getting more injuries even though we're managing minutes. If a player needs a rest, fair enough, but I don't believe in planning to sub a player after a certain number of minutes before the game kicks off. Colin Metcalf, football's a squad game. If the squad players can't cope, what's the point of having them? Lippy Jane says that ballerinas train just as much more than any footballer. This is in response to Mr. Metcalf's comparison. I didn't read the last bit out, but I agree with you. If you are in a team, you want to play Tuesday, Saturday, Tuesday. Chris Gosling, counter argument. Likewise, there's been many cases of footballers saying they're fit to play when they're not. Derek Flowers, get Brian Stubbs on and hear his views on today's footballers. Podcast wouldn't start till the watershed. And that, of course, is the same Brian Stubbs. I think he's one of the 10 top all-time appearance makers for Notts. Every game he played was for Notts County. Over 400 appearances. Still comes down the club. Kedwin's dad, Colin, I love the FA Cup. Very disappointed to go out. But, of course, we're all very pleased to see your lad get back on the score sheet, Colin. What else have we got? Duncan Comrie, quite a good one. Doesn't the magic sponge work anymore? Immediately takes me back to Jack Wheeler, 1,000 consecutive Notts County games with his magic sponge. Um, Has the new pitch impacted on our injuries one way or another? Says Derek Flowers. I actually do. It's difficult when you look at the pitches still now. They look beautiful, and they are. They're a bowling green. Um, in your day, you try to take a divot and half the ground comes up. You try and take a divot on any modern football pitch, you'll break your toe. And I do, even just, not running around, but you just got, it is surprising, genuinely, how much firmer those modern pitches are compared to previous generations where it was like going on your Sunday morning parks pitch and, it's really, really soft.
Look, I say that, like I say, I say this with absolutely no science or data or evidence to back me up,
Go
but
on.
you cannot make a case for the modern pitches being that good. They're contributing to injuries more than the old muddy ploughed fields and sandy
Okay.
things that we used to play on. Absolutely, that cannot be the case. I can't believe that at all. But now I know there's been an argument. I know there's been a study done about modern boots.
Yes.
Modern
The
boots
studs
being a
and
factor,
the
the
track
equipment again.
grooves. Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
again, I don't know. I'm not saying with any sort of knowledge whatsoever, but I'm sorry. The pictures are nigh on perfect. It's like playing on a bowling green every week. You are not telling me. Any player from more than sort of 15, 20 years ago would love to play on the modern pitches. They'd be like an absolute dream. I had a bobble permanently on my right foot and my left foot, and my boots that followed me round. So, oh God, no, the pitches are so much better nowadays. Like I say, like the standard, like the technical ability of the players, like the fitness of the players, like everything in life, sport, it moves on because the boundaries and the bars are being raised all the time. It's always being pushed forward. So it's always going to improve. You can argue there are sections and certain areas where it's not improved for the better, it's changed, such as, like you say, players are more protected now than ever. Imagine that the injuries that you get with players could be kicked like, Maradona used to be, and people like that. If defending was allowed to be like that, where the first 15 minutes you were allowed a free hit on a centre forward thing, imagine the sort of injuries you'd get now. But life has changed. That was then, gone. This is now. We can only use the past as a comparator for what's going on nowadays. You only can work in the era you're in. So the players are working in their era. I think the bit to go back to the overprotection of players and the reason for, I just don't want to give players excuses, but I don't like it being put out there so much that you've got to be wary of this, because I think it gives you an out if you're having a bad time. If you're maybe not fully on top of your game, I think you've got an out. And sometimes it is a harsh sport. It is a harsh game. I think there are times for some harsh truths, even now, even in the modern game. If somebody's been left out and it's because they're I think the stats can be used as a bit of a excuse, a bit of a, rather than just saying you haven't been playing well enough. You aren't doing enough. The substitutions, and I'd be interested on Stuart's thought. In private, he wouldn't say it publicly, but it might have been because he didn't feel them players were playing well enough. But he isn't going to come out and say that because, again, you lose the players. So, it might well have been that contributed to the fact we were under the cosh. But either way, it's a different game. It's moved on. Like it or loathe it, we get behind them and we hope we get the result Tuesday.
Matthew Hoyland makes an interesting point from when Stuart used to be at Wealdstone. Stuart probably didn't manage the minutes in the same way at Wealdstone for very obvious reasons, or likely had sports science at hand. He's very quickly become keen on minutes management. Ian G, every team moans about injuries and uses the excuse. Even Pep has said it. It's amazing how Rodri all of a sudden was the entire Manchester City department, isn't it? I digress. But it does show, says Ian, the depth of talent in our squad is miles off when we lose key players. Fine leg. I've never understood the term match fitness. What else have we got Andy Esom. Stell, have you seen enough of Brown and Martin to keep on or release from their loans in a few weeks' time? Without Bass this year, says Ian G, we would be mid-table at the moment. He's the best in the league. That actually is something I know that Stuart has said on more than one occasion, that he believes Alex Bass is the best keeper in Division 2. Absolutely wouldn't disagree with that. Andy Walton still can play 4 games a week on these surfaces. He struggles to get
all
2 rounds.
badly.
We both struggle to get 2 rounds of golfing in a week, let alone 4 matches. Matthew Hoyland winning, and then was the reason we had to play with 10. Yeah, I mean, there's an argument with that. Stell did actually make a good point when we were saying that he'd used all the subs up and would have had to play with 10 in extra time. You get an extra substitute, Stell informed me, had that game gone into extra time. So had we made it 4-all, we would not have had to play those 30 minutes with only 10 men. Neil Adkin, is it false economy to have a small squad when you can't compete in the cups and league? Ray Newton, we need at least five new signings in January to make our squad stronger for the run into the end of the season. Ian G, 0 gravity treadmills. Bet you jog down the side of the Trentster. I don't know whether 0 gravity treadmill's a new thing or not. You've lost me there, but to worry.
The way I ran, gravity pulled me down even heavier. I had double gravity, never mind 0 gravity, weighing me down. Good grief, yeah. But that's it. That's a sign of the science and everything they've got nowadays. It's moved on leaps and bounds, yeah.
James Moore, despite all the stats and scientific figures, players raise their game when match day comes. I think we rely too much on these things and not individuals' own willpower to see the job done. I think that's a good point. Tim Elsop, being there on Saturday, brought back memories the first time I went. I remember this. David Seaman was in goal for Peterborough and Steve Bold was playing for Torquay on loan from Stoke. Colin Metcalf, do we really think that fitness has moved on so much that players are pushing themselves so hard they're only a fraction away from an injury? I think that's what the sports science people would suggest. You can only really push the human body so far before something gives. Right. I think as a result, and it was an honest comment from Stuart's comments about the substitutions, I think we're kind of boxed into a corner now, Stell, whereby we've boxed ourselves in many people's eyes to a mutually exclusive outcome. And by that, I mean, had we not made the subs when we did, there's no way we could have won at Walsall. Disagree. The fact we made the subs against Peterborough means we now stand a much better chance or a realistic chance of winning at Walsall. And again, I don't really agree with that. But you and I both know if we win, Stuart's decision is then 100% right. I think that's taken too far. But conversely, if we don't win, or certainly if we lose, it was a ridiculous decision. Blah, 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 blah.
Yeah, I think this is it. I think the two things are separate issues, and this is why saying it's about Tuesday has confused and conflated the sort of the issue a little bit. In that, make or not make them substitutions at 65 minutes, I don't think has. I'm not going to say it doesn't have any impact on Tuesday, but I say it has a minor impact. The bigger impact would have been had he not made substitutions and Alexander Jatta pulls up in the 88th minute on Saturday and isn't available for Tuesday. Then you go, why didn't he bring him off? Of course, but I don't, just because he has brought it doesn't give us any extra benefit on Tuesday whatsoever, I don't think. But conversely, it doesn't give us any negative either. The only negative is we lost the game. We lost the game. So, that's the negative. You want to win your game, feel confident going into the next one. But the players will know it's a tough game against a team that, say, is second in the table, got a chance of going top if they beat us. So they'll know what's riding on it, and they'll know what's expected of them, and they'll want to bounce back after getting beat in the cup against. And what we haven't mentioned, and we can argue, a very good attacking Peterborough team. What I thought, I'm like you, they're mid-table for a reason, and the reason we saw with our own two eyes, they were awful defensively, calamitous defending from them, culminating in that George Abbott goal. And good to see him break his duck. I mean, that sort of almost got missed a little bit, but he broke his duck. So that was good to see. And I want to see him hopefully add to his tally and start with his first league goal tomorrow night. It'd be good. But Peterborough were excellent going forward. They were awful at the back. But I think when I look at Peterborough, and this is something I've been saying for ages about having a bit of pace in the team. And again, notwithstanding Jody's not there, Dan Crowley's not there, two key players going to impact everybody, but they had pace in them attacking areas. Pace in attacking areas, and they caused Notts no end of problems. Good players, don't get me wrong, good players, but players that we've sort of seen. Poco, I think, was in the National League with Barnet 3 seasons ago, 3 seasons ago. Players like that Ryan de Havilland in midfield, he was at Barnet, wasn't he? We played against him before. But then the Mothersill as well, the other one, and Jones, the striker, just direct attacking players. And I just think that's somewhere that Notts could look at and go, well, if that's what they've got in League One, okay, relative to that, in League Two, I would like a little bit more pace. Been saying it all season, so I'm not, either in a wide area. No, I'm not talking about central striker because we don't play too often going in behind. I think Jetta's fine, he's fine. But I like it in them withdrawn positions to give us a little option, or in the wide areas to go in behind, because pace scares opponents. It scares them. So that's one bit for me that I've been saying all along. But I think Peterborough was a good example of pace and movement in them forward areas. They caused Notts all sorts of problems. We've not seen Notts defensively undone like that. And bearing in mind that was a first team defence, wasn't it? That was a full team. He did go strong. We have not been troubled anything like that. It could have been 7 or 8. We've not been troubled like that at all, anything like in League Two this season. So there are them levels in sport, of course, but that was something that stood out for me. I thought with them, the attacking players they've got, I thought, yeah, that really causes problems. And you're looking relatively to League Two. If Notts could find or unearth somebody like that with a bit of pace, I think that gives us a little bit more of something we haven't got in the squad.
Oh, the irony. And I'm assuming Fine Leg is not winding us up here still. FA Cup third round. And it would have been us because they keep the same balls, believe it or not, in the football, in the FA Cup. You keep the same ball depending on the tie that you win. Peterborough are going to Everton.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh,
now, it's a long time since Notts have played Everton. I'm fortunate enough to have been there, but probably the last season at Goodison, isn't it? If they're off the Bramley-Moore dock, but look, bound to happen. Ifs, buts, and maybes. Yeah. I am fast being educated on the zero gravity treadmill. Not to use these at Notts University. It's part of the excellent partnership with the university. So state of the art stuff that helps you, I presume, mobilize legs, mobilize joints, bit like, I guess, being in a swimming bath, walking up and down a swimming bath with less weight on injuries, but keeping the legs mobile, if you like. Do we definitely have Abbott till the end of the season? I've heard rumours he could be recalled to go out on loan again. Situation is not dissimilar to Ryan Yates, Ian G. It's kind of a loan through till January, and then it's at the behest of the parent club as to what they do with him. They can extend his loan at Notts, or they can haul him back and send him off somewhere else. You'll all remember the Ryan Yates scenario at Notts, hauled back, sent off to Scunthorpe. Ian Hayward, from Saturday's result, I think that gives us an idea where to improve in the squad in January. Like Stell said, we need pace, and I agree. James Moore, Paul and Stell, never mind stats and ifs, buts, and maybes. Are you both fighting fit for Friday night? You'll need to be on top form going head to head with Martin. So it's off. It's off, James, because I can't do 2 in a week. Sorry, mate. I'm with Snell, both out. We're both out. The gaffer doesn't want to pick us. Can't do 2 in a week. Now, of course, 6:30, gates open. And just to please Derek Flowers, who I know is a regular show member, and I know he's listening tonight. Derek was a bit unhappy about having to join up or open an account with Gigantic, which is the online ticket agency that handles the tickets for this. I don't have to join an account. I'm not coming, right? Just for you, Derek, and for everybody else that's not got a ticket, you will be able to pay on the night. All right, you can pay cash, you can pay in pound coins if you want, Derek. Paying credit card. So we'd like to get tickets in advance. You can pay on the night. Gates open 6:30. Sometime after 7, we will be starting with Martin. It won't be a late one. Obviously, everyone needs to be tucked up in bed. You need your beauty sleep to prepare for Notts County Colchester on Saturday afternoon at 3 o'clock. But we hope a lot of advance tickets. Spoke to Martin again today. No more dips in rivers since. So we'll make sure he's fighting fit himself for Friday. And we hope to see you there on Friday evening, the Big Shed, Trent Navigation. Stell, looking forward to it with Mad Dog?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, he's entertainment himself, isn't he? Who knows what he's going to say, what tangent he's going to go off on, and what little rants he's got up his sleeve for us. So, yeah, be entertaining. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, and what we're going to be doing with Martin, there will be a mix of serious questions, and I think as a result of what's happened at the weekend, we'll be talking with Martin about how you pick a team. So if you've got a sports scientist or you've got a physio, not sure if you're playing more than 60, 70, does Martin say, yeah, no problem? Or does he say, I'll decide that? You know, but have an understanding and appreciation of current issues in the game. And I know Martin is itching to tell a few stories about his clashes, shall we say, with senior executives at the football club, getting an official disciplinary for his dog's misdemeanors down the side of the pitch, and namely watering the corner flag. So look, there'll be 101 stories. We hope to see as many of you as possible, and hopefully there will be some more. There's one or two other, shall we say, senior players from the last 10 years who we're looking to bring along as well. But let's get this first one out of the way. And there's Derek. Here's our friend Derek. My mate got me one. Well done, Derek. Well done, Derek. I knew you wouldn't miss it. Thank you, everyone. Hope you've enjoyed tonight. It's been very interesting to speak with Stell and just get an appreciation of how it all works, modern science, football. You will be at Walsall, I presume, Stell?
Yeah, absolutely. Me and Dave tomorrow.
You and Dave tomorrow. Very good.
Yeah, Dave's back. Yep.
Doing battle with the M6 or cutting across the A, whatever it is. I mean, it's not easy, is it, Walsall?
No.
Midweek evening, you know?
Yeah, the M6, we all know what sort of horrors that can throw up. So you've got to leave yourself plenty of time, even though it's not too far up the M6, is it?
Yeah, and as I say, I don't think substitutions that we made on Saturday make more than a 0.1% difference to Tuesday. Unfortunately, I think people are going to be doing 2 and 2 and making 5, dependent on what side of the argument they're coming down from. For me, this is not an issue about Stuart's overall managership, leadership of the club. We're 5th in the table. But I do think it's an interesting debating point, and I would be interested to ask Stuart, would he do the same again? I don't think he would. But anyway, we live and we learn. Stell, thank you very much for your pearls of wisdom, as always.
Pleasure, no problem. Hope everyone has a good night, and we'll see plenty of you, I'm sure, tomorrow night at Walsall and on Friday night at the Navigation.
3 in a week. We definitely can't do 3 in a week, Stell. Can't do 3. Not a chance.
I'll be stretching off after about half an hour on Friday, I'm sure.
I'm going to bed now. And sleep till tomorrow at 5 o'clock. Thank you, one and all, for your contributions tonight. Look forward to seeing you all on Friday. You can pay in advance, or You can pay on the night, cash or card. We look forward to seeing you all. Martin will very happily sign your Christmas cards, pose for photos, all of that sort of thing. Let's have a good night on Friday. But first and foremost, let's have a good night tomorrow night. Good night, all.